The upcoming video is provided through free early access of The Sims 4 for Rent expansion pack from the EA Creator Network. I'm Jason Sterling. Thanks for watching. The video you're about to watch was recorded using an alpha copy of The Sims 4 for Rent expansion pack. That means that this game is still under development. There's still several weeks before it releases to the market. As such, things can and often do change between the video you're about to watch and the retail version ultimately released. And with that, we'll start our video. Thanks for watching. Okay, so we see before us the town of Tomarang, the new world here for The Sims 4 for Rent expansion pack. And you can see right off the bat that it is a small world. It is a small world of just 2 neighborhoods. There's only 9 total lots here. And it has, as we've come to expect from The Sims over and over and over again, a very small town, almost rural setting and feel. The description for the world actually describes the downtown area as a sort of bustling downtown, but there's not really anything to give that impression when you are in fact there. For one thing, The Sims is limited to just 20 Sims, just 20 characters within whatever lot you happen to be inhabiting at the time, where whatever lot that your sim that you're playing is currently located at, and the entire wider area around it. So if you have a very wide area, and downtown is fairly wide, those 20 sims can pretty easily disperse over that area, and real quick, it doesn't feel like anybody is there. Not only is it a small world with just 2 neighborhoods, but like I said, it also has only 9 lots. And the lots themselves are also not very big. In fact, they're quite small. You have one 40 by 30 lot. That is your largest lot. And there's just one of them. You have one 30 by 30 lot, which is your second largest lot. Then you have 2 20 by 30 lots, which is 4 lots total. And an additional 3 20 by 20 lots, which is getting pretty small. And of course, 2 20 by 15 lots. Now, again, that's a little bit surprising to me. Again, not so much that I would expect really large sprawling lots in Southeast Asia or sprawling estates, but I would expect big urban lots where you're going to put a large development for, say, I don't know, rental apartments, condominiums, things like that. That would be very typical for an urban environment, a bustling downtown, right, in Southeast Asia. Now, 3 of the lots are empty. Of course, as I always say, every lot is an empty lot if you just bulldoze what's on there, which is what I typically do. So the way I look at it, I have 9 empty lots to play around with. We also have 3 rabbit holes, though. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, one of the rabbit holes I don't mind, and to some limited extent, I don't mind the integration of rabbit holes in this game. However, we've got 3 of them in a really small world, and 2 of them are what I consider major venues, like major places your sim might want to go. You have the Tiger Sanctuary, the Temple Complex, and a fish market. We're going to go over each of those locations as we go through these neighborhoods. But those are our 3 rabbit holes contained within this world. Let's start here on the residential side. Now, let me say right off the bat, this is kind of the residential side. I think it's supposed to be kind of the out in the countryside. But everything here looks like a suburb. Everything here actually looks like a resort to me. It looks suspiciously like a resort, in fact. When I was kind of taking video, going around town, going up and down the streets, the first thing I thought of it while doing that was a resort at Disney World. It looks a lot like Port Orleans to me for some reason. I think it has to do with the landscaping and the way the landscaping is placed and the manicured nature of it. It's spotlessly clean. It's perfectly manicured. It's perfectly landscaped. It's got evenly spaced light fixtures, up and down the road. It really feels like a resort. It feels like you're at a Marriott or something like that, maybe in Southeast Asia. more than your typical, even rural Southeast Asian town. If we're going to go for a small town, a Southeast Asian small town feel, I don't really imagine this that we're seeing here. This looks so upscale and so luxury. And I'm not going to say that doesn't exist in Southeast Asia, because it does. But as a general rule, this is so upscale and so luxury that it feels like a Western resort. It feels like an American company came into a Southeast Asian community and built an American resort for Americans to go hang out at. We have 5 of our lots here. There is a lounge. There's a lounge. There is one of the new residential rental lots that does have a rental unit in it that will work as a starter residential unit. So it'll work as a starter unit. And then the upstairs unit, I believe, is the owners. They live there. There's a family living there. So if you move your sim in there, there'll be 2 families living on that lot. And then we have a third build that is a standard single-family home. It's a 1-story single-family home built in a kind of Thai style, I would say. It is elevated up on stilts, very, very typical of the region. Most of these builds, I would say, they're fairly typical of the region, the builds that Maxis did, but they feel more typical of the region about 150 years ago. During the trailers and while I was going through this world, you've got 2 things here. The Maxis builds stick out like a sore thumb, because everything else in that world, everything around them looks like a brand newly built building. All of the shells, all the background, all the places you can't actually go. It's just set dressing. All of that looks brand new. And then you've got these few kind of spaced out buildings that honestly kind of look like a Merchant Ivory film, or like a sort of British colonial architecture as you would imagine it. That's why I say a Merchant Ivory film from the late 1800s, a sort of early 1900s period. There's nothing wrong with that, and I'm sure some of that does exist. And it's even kind of good that we have it, because it brings a lot of great build assets to the game that we can use in a lot of different areas. But it ignores an entire facet of the culture of Southeast Asia when it comes to their modern building and their modern style of living and the way that they actually do things today. I mean, is this a historical pack? Is this supposed to be a historical piece where we're living in the past? Okay, but then it doesn't match with all of the background shells and all the set dressing. Or is it supposed to be today, which the background shells and set dressing still doesn't really match what you find today, but is it supposed to be that? I don't know. It feels a little kind of disconnected. That said, you can see here as I'm speaking, I am running video and pictures of these places. There's nothing really wrong with the builds. These are all Maxis builds. There were no community creators with this particular pack. As I understand it, and I can't remember where I read this, but as I understand it, it was because of time constraints. That's what I think. Time constraints, there just wasn't time. It does take extra time, I'm sure, to work with community builders, back and forth across wherever they may be on the globe, make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to work and counting on everything to be in on time. So Maxis did all these builds. Okay, they look fine. There's nothing technically wrong with them. In some cases, they might be a little bit bland, but hey, it is what it is. You know what to expect. It's a Maxis build. In this neighborhood, you also do have some beaches and some routable water. Again, feels very much like a resort area, right? It feels like the sort of place you're going to go. You're going to get a condo. You're going to stay a week within walking distance to the beach. And the other thing in the neighborhood is a lounge, right? It does feel very resort. There's also a tiger sanctuary here. Tiger, I'm going to put that in quotes. Tiger sanctuary. I've not seen a tiger. at the sanctuary. I did kind of go back and look through the jungle back there, kind of take a look and see if I could see one. I couldn't see one. I did not see any tiger. I didn't even see any little eyes looking at me or anything else from the bush. And that would have been kind of a nice addition if that had been the case, but I did not see that. The tiger sanctuary is a rabbit hole. And in rabbit hole tradition, you walk up, you disappear. You get these sort of like, I call them choose your own adventure cards. Because they remind me of those books from like I was a little kid, and you would have these books and you would read it and it would be like, do you want to do this? Go to this page. Do you want to go do this? Go to this page. And you would read and see what outcome your choice produced, right? Now, here at the Tiger Sanctuary, it is a beautiful backdrop. It's really pretty. It's really well executed. It's still a rabbit hole, and the interactions are pretty light. So in our case, what you're seeing here on the screen, I went at night. I broke into the place. I was immediately caught. And you have really just one choice to make. In this case, I don't remember what I chose. Something, I chose like my choice. Then you gotta either leave or get kicked out. And in this case, I got some clay and like a spare part, I think, or something that I essentially must have stole from the place. I don't know. And you get a moodlet, of course, and that's it. And I've not done much with this. I really haven't. I'm not real big on rabbit holes as a general rule, and I don't really care to play it much. I did go through it to see what it was like, and the couple of times I did it, it was exactly like that. You went in, there was like one choice, you left. Next, we're going to move over to our bustling downtown, you guys, a bustling downtown, which I've already gone over. I didn't feel it was very bustling, so we won't touch much on that again. In this area, there are 4 lots. One of the lots has already been developed as a botanical garden, or a national park is what it's stamped as. It does look like a botanical garden. It does look like a lot of examples of botanical. I'd call it more of a botanical park, but a botanical garden that I did see when I was looking at things from Thailand, kind of researching builds for Thailand. So, okay, at least from that standpoint, it does look fairly authentic, to the area. But there's nothing to do there. Like literally you go there and it's pretty and it looks pretty and it has a bench. That's it. And it seems a little weird to have this park, this botanical park here, when basically the entire city so far has been so park-like. I mean, everything looks like a manicured park. Why do we need another large park in the middle of what is essentially a park? We don't. And it could, I'm surprised it's not a rabbit hole, though. At least it's not a rabbit hole. Speaking of rabbit holes, we've got 2 rabbit holes downtown. One is the fish market, which we'll come to in a little bit. The other one is a temple. And these 2 places, this botanical park and the temple, kind of tie together for me because the temple is a rabbit hole. The temple is, again, I'll play video here and show pictures here of the temple. It does nothing. You walk up, you go in, you come back out after about, 10 seconds, and you have a moodlet. And that's it. There's not even like choose your own adventure cards for that. And it's the exact same thing each of, I think, the 3 or 4 times I've tried it now just to test it. It was the exact same mechanism every time. There was no variation. So how long are you going to find that interesting? The same amount of time I did, which is once or twice. At most, because there's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. You walk inside and you walk out inspired. So I guess if your sim needs to be inspired and you don't want them to have them drink a cup of tea or something, then I guess you could walk into the temple instead. Now, what I'm going to do is take the botanical park and I'm going to leave it largely intact, but I'm going to change the area with the bench into a small temple, take the shrine that does come with the game. We do have a shrine in game that you can use from Build Buy. Put it in there. So at least if you go downtown to that botanical garden, and I don't know, I might not leave it in the botanical garden. I might move it to a smaller lot. But long story short, if I have a park, it's going to be a temple and it's going to have that shrine in it. And then your sim can go to the temple and actually do something themselves. It's small, The shrine's not very involved either, but they can at least do something themselves, and it'll give me the fun of building something, right? So there is that. And speaking of builds, Maxis has already built 2 more things for us here. Is that right? Yes, 2 more things for us here. There are 4 lots. One of them is empty. It's the 40 by 30, which is your largest lot. The 30 by 30 is the botanical park. There is a single family home, which is empty on the 20 by 15. We'll run through that here. It's pretty basic, pretty bare bones, but it does work as a starter. It doesn't work for much else because it is a single family home in the middle of a bustling downtown in Southeast Asia, and it feels wholly and completely out of place. It does. I'm just going to say it because I'm not saying that that's impossible or that could never happen or hasn't happened somewhere in Southeast Asia. And I think it especially depends on how big your scope and your geographical scope of Southeast Asia is. But when I think of Southeast Asia, I don't think of a bustling downtown with a single family home and yard sitting in the middle of it all. I'm sorry, I don't think of that. But that's what you've got here. It does work as a starter home. You also have a new residential rental lot that has a literally 1 bedroom with 1 bed. Okay, that's another thing I'm going to go over real quick. The homes that have been built here, with the exception of the occupied single-family home over in the residential area, all seem geared towards single sims, or at most maybe a couple. At most. This particular rental lot here in downtown Tomarang is not only a 1 bedroom, but it literally has 1 single bed. Don't get any ideas you're not bringing any friends home to this place. Well, I mean, you could. I could figure out a way to use a single bed. But in The Sims, you're not bringing anybody home to this place, to your single bedroom, to have some company for the night or the afternoon or whenever it is that you're awake looking for company. You're not going to be doing that. And that was kind of weird, I thought, that all the builds they did seemed so sort of relationship status specific, but I don't know. Probably, I don't think it was a grand conspiracy. I just think that maybe a lot of them are young and single and don't have sex. I'm joking, of course. They're probably not all young. Yeah, they're probably not all young. Okay, as night is coming on, we're going to head over to the fish market. The fish market's open from like 4 p.m. to midnight, so it's a bit like the night market, and it is across the street from the night market. The fish market is a rabbit hole, and this is kind of about, it's really the only sort of somewhat acceptable rabbit holes I guess I'll go for. Because, if you're going to go grocery shopping, do I really need to walk into a building and click on individual bins of fish to pull a fish out of it? No, not really. And in fact, when I do go grocery shopping, a lot of times I do it just like you see on screen here, where I just go online and click what I want and either have it delivered or go pick it up and bring it back. One thing I do wish is if you're going to do that, make it a full grocery store so I can buy everything I need there at once and make the prices in line with what Sims actually earn. Because a lot of times it's like you can grow strawberries or you can buy 1 strawberry for like, I think $44 or something at the grocery store. Does that make sense to anybody in the entire world? Because it doesn't make sense to me. $44 for 1 fucking strawberry? Who would ever eat a strawberry? Nobody would. So anyway, but I do wish we had more of a full grocery store. And I wish if you're going to do it, can you not block program that thing and just drop one into every world so that we can go grocery shopping in whatever world we happen to live in? We're not going to live here in Tomarang and then go over to Hinford on Bagley, go all the way over there to do part of our grocery shopping. No. Now, as I said, right across from there is the night market, which is bright and colorful and, well, kind of lively. It looks like it could be lively. It does look like it could be lively. And it also looks remarkably like a cruise ship port. To me, again, when I first saw this, even on the trailers, that's what it hit me as. It hit me as when you go to Mexico and you get off the cruise ship and you're in a port that's been built by the cruise ship company. It looks a lot like an American shopping mall. It's got like Margaritaville and it's got these other sort of names that you recognize, and everybody speaks English, and every single sign is in English, and it's spotlessly clean. And I mean, you could be in any shopping mall like all over this country. I never really realized that, hey, no, actually, you're supposed to be in Honduras right now. This is, and those are the sort of people that will come back and say, oh, yeah, I visited Honduras. It was so beautiful. I had a beautiful beach. Everyone could speak English. And there was no garbage there. It wasn't nearly as bad as you hear. Well, that's because you never left the cruise ship port. And that's what this place reminds me of. It reminds me of a sort of custom built sort of place where you're going to get off a cruise ship, you're going to do some shopping, you're going to have a couple of drinks, you're going to get right back on the cruise ship, and you're going to have seen all of maybe 6 square blocks of the country you went to see, and all of it was built by Americans for Americans. Also, too, I said it seems like it could be lively because it's not very lively. Again, you have the problem with only 20 Sims in this entire area can be here, right? And on top of that, only 4 stalls are open. So I think, about a third of them are actually open. 3 of those are for food and 1's for merchandise. And they're the same 4 every single time, every single night. It doesn't rotate. They don't change. You don't have different stuff. I think the merchandise booth changes a little bit because you can collect tassels and marbles. You can buy those at the booth. But that's all you have going here all the time. So while it's set up as though it's a bustling market, it doesn't look like a night market in Thailand. It really doesn't. It looks like a festival in America. It looks like really clean and sparkling. Now, it's kind of cool, and I really like the way your Sims can sit at these counters. For the food stalls, they've got little counters now, and your Sims can actually sit there on a bench and eat what they've just purchased. That's very cool. It is something to do. You can take your kids down, you can take your Sims down there and get something to eat. You can go to the merchandise, stall and maybe buy a t-shirt or a marble or a tassel, which again sounds remarkably like a tourist kind of store, doesn't it? But yeah, I mean, you can go and kind of buy a few things like that. Just not different enough to be considered a major addition to the game, no matter how much is played up in marketing and advertising. Now, as we come towards the end here, let me just say the world is beautiful. The world is beautiful. If you want Sulani 2.0 and the feel of a sort of tropical paradise that is almost too perfect to be anything but a pre-made Western designed dropped-in resort, if that's what you're looking for, and a lot of people are, first of all, let me say that too. A lot of people are going to be happy with that. And if that's what you really do want in the game, I think you're going to love this place. And I think even if it's not what you really want, you're still going to agree that it is a really beautiful place. It does look very nice. It is a tropical paradise. Does that equal what we would hope for a southeastern pack? That I don't know. And by southeastern, I mean Southeast Asia, of course. That I don't know. I'll be honest, part of my disappointment with it is I really did expect something more. This is our big chance to have a real exposure to Southeast Asia and to their culture and their way of doing things. And I don't mean their culture and their architecture of 150 years ago or what you might find at a Western designed resort. I mean today, I mean real life. I would love to see. They have some of the most exciting and spectacular modern architecture out there. They have some of the most spectacular and exciting cities. Some of the largest cities in the world are in Southeast Asia, and they are vibrant and colorful and real. And that's what I really would have liked to see. It's a beautiful resort style world. Its big drawback is that literally you could drop it into any tropical environment from Florida to California to Mexico to Polynesia to India, and it looks like it would pretty much just fit any of those places. There is nothing to tell you really that this is a Southeast Asian place. There's nothing distinguishable about it, really. There are a few things. I mean, you've got 2 major rabbit holes. Those look pretty authentic, but they're just rabbit holes. They're just background. You have a shrine You have a few other sort of individual little things out and about. So even though a lot of people are going to like it as a tropical paradise, I'll build here. I'll try to dirty it up a little bit, see what I can do. Maybe with tool mod or something. And by dirty it up, I mean just make it more real. Even my town's dirty. I live in an American Midwestern mid-sized town, and it doesn't look like The Sims, We've got graffiti, we've got garbage, we've got a terrible homeless problem here, and that we're doing nothing about. That's a whole nother video. So I'm going to try to dirty it up. Sure, I'll play it. And it is pretty. It's a really pretty world. I really did like walking around it. It's got a great, pretty vibe. If you want to pretend like it's part of Sulani, it's going to fit beautifully and you're going to love it. But the bad thing is there was an opportunity here for Maxis to really present a new culture and a new part of the real world in game for people to participate in. And that opportunity was completely missed. And that's what Paradise cost us. It cost us a chance to really see something new and to really have something new in game, because there's nothing about this world really that feels very new. It just doesn't. It's not that it's bad. It's not that it's bad. I'll say that again. I don't want people to think this is a completely negative video, because it's not a bad world, right? It's just not anything new or different. And I had been hoping that it would be. So that's my fault. That is on me. I had been hoping it would be. That's on me. Got my hopes up. And I hope I'm not getting my hopes up, that you'll hit like, subscribe, and notify. There'll be more videos coming. We're going to have a build buy, go through and review, and then we'll have an overall game, expansion pack review, and look at, sort of the gameplay and what we have here as a whole. And versus cost, right? Versus cost, like always. So that'll be coming. So please hit like, subscribe, and notify so that you do not miss that. And in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching.